In this video, I'm going to share with you a conversation that I had about business, marketing, and growing up a massive social media following with Jaspreet from Minority Mindset, a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers and an entire media company built around it. If you have a business, or are thinking about starting a business, or even work for a business, then some of the things that we talk about in this video, well, I just know they're going to provide some serious value to you. So let's get to it. All right, hey Jaspreet, welcome to the channel, my friend.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Oh man, I'm super excited. We chatted a bit beforehand about where we're going to go and what we're going to talk about, essentially all things marketing and business and content and entrepreneurship. But as anyone watching will see, well, we're going to go wherever the conversation takes us. So on that note, maybe just give me and everybody watching kind of like a little bit of background about your journey in content and with YouTube, and a huge congrats, because like you're over that million mark, which is such a profound and amazing, impactful number. So very, very cool to see.
Well, thank you so much for that. Like you said, my name is Jaspreet Singh. I'm the founder of a company called Minority Mindset. The Minority Mindset has nothing to do with the way you look, your ethnicity, or your skin color. It's the mindset of thinking differently than the majority of people. I started Minority Mindset as a hobby. This was something I was doing on the side because I got scammed in a different business that I was running. As a way for me to teach the things that I wish I knew when I was getting started, because I never grew up with any sort of financial education or any sort of entrepreneurship education. No one told me that it was okay to be an entrepreneur. I was actively discouraged from being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So it was my way of just kind of talking. And then as Minority Mindset started to grow, I had to make that decision. Do I continue with Minority Mindset, the thing that I love, the thing that's making no money, or do I continue with the thing that's making me money that I'm not so passionate about?
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that I continued with Minority Mindset, and we were able to grow our YouTube channel into something a whole lot bigger, into one of the fastest growing financial education and media companies on the internet.
Yeah.
So now we've grown from just our YouTube channel to multiple YouTube channels. We have the Minority Mindset channel. We have the news channel, Minority Mindset News, where we publish daily finance and business news. We have the Minority Mindset Spanish channel. We have our website where we publish content every single day on our blog. We have our daily newsletter, which goes out every single day. So we really expanded from just YouTube to a full financial education and media company. But it all started from YouTube, talking about the things that I love talking about anyways, and just putting this information out there for free.
Yeah. So there's like, oh man, there's so many cool directions we could go there. The two big ones, I guess, are like where things can go and how you just never have any clue, right? Like when you're first starting and you're putting in all those times. The second, actually, there's a few. The second thing is like, when you're first starting and you're making those videos and your friends and your family and everybody thinks you're just nuts. Because they're like, why are you wasting your time and money on this? You don't need that camera. Like, you need to just go back to work. I felt that, and I had very supportive friends and family. But even then, you could see it like in their eyes, and you could hear it in their voice when they're like, okay, that's cool. That's nice, Adam. That's nice, Jaspreet. I know you're doing that. Cool. But like, maybe you should go back to work. How did you sort of like get over that hurdle when, I mean, especially in the early days, you're making content. We have no subscribers when we first started. No one sees anything. So how do you just sort of keep that going?
So let me back up a little bit, because I grew up in a traditional Indian house. My parents are immigrants from a state in India called Punjab. And my parents came from that traditional mindset of, in order for our son, me, to succeed, I need to become a doctor. Yeah. So I had two options. Yeah. Either I could become a doctor or I could become a failure. There was nothing in between. That's how I was raised. And I did not know what entrepreneurship was. I always kind of had this entrepreneurial bug because, when I was a kid, I was mowing my neighbor's lawns. I was delivering newspapers. I was doing a whole bunch of different things, but it was never okay. And to kind of show you what I mean by that, like when I say my parents wanted me to be a doctor, it wasn't like a suggestion. It was, I had to become a doctor. And it was so strict that when I was in middle school, English was my second language. So I got a D+ in my English class. So I was, on the borderline of failing my English class. And so my dad got me a tutor. But the tutor wasn't for my English class that I was on the verge of failing. The tutor was for the MCAT, the medical college admission test, the test you take towards the end of your college career in order to get into medical school. So here I am, 12 years old in middle school. This tutor comes at the door and he's like, so what are we talking about today? The MCAT.
Yeah.
That's how serious it was.
Yeah.
And so I got into entrepreneurship when I was in high school. I started working at weddings. I started hosting teen parties for kids in my high school. But I had to do all of my entrepreneurial ventures in secret. So I kind of lived two lives. I had this life that my parents knew about, that my family knew about, where I was just the studious person working very hard in school, which I was, trying to get good grades, trying to get into good college, trying to get into medical school. And then I had the other Jaspreet Singh, who was on this quest for financial education, on this quest of trying to learn what is entrepreneurship and trying to really build something for myself. So it was hard because my parents didn't know what I was doing. And when they started to catch on, they were not happy. When they found out that I wasn't going to be a doctor, they were not happy. Like it was like, it took my mom a year and a half to finally accept the idea that her son was not going to go into medical school. He was not going to go to become a doctor, because I didn't even apply. I took the MCAT, but I didn't go through with it because it wasn't for me. I knew that I had a separate calling, and it was very hard because I had family calling me, telling me, Jaspreet, you're throwing everything away. I had done everything. I checked all the boxes. I had done the pre-med clubs. I had volunteered at hospitals. I had done the internships. I had done the shadowing of doctors. I went to all these different events to get me ready to get into medical school. And here I am throwing it all away. Throwing away my future. That's hard because
it's hard.
I haven't achieved that success that I want, or that I thought that I could. And I didn't know that if I was like, you don't know what is going to happen.
I think I'll pause you there, because I think that, like, to me, at least from what I've seen and what I've heard in the comments and that, is like that sticking point, that pause right there, where it's like, it's not like you were giving up medical school and the promise of being a doctor to go have this like lustrous, luxurious career as an entrepreneur with money raining down from the sky. It's like when we're first starting, we're talking to no one's watching our stuff, no one's there. And so all you really have is sort of this blind faith and belief in yourself and this like burning desire. Now, a lot of people let that sort of get snuffed out prematurely. Like, I'm not saying that you need to be reckless and like quit your job and just go start your side hustle or whatever it is. But a lot of people, they don't even push it there because the appeal, the draw of the safer paycheck or the safer career, whatever, it's just too overpowering. I mean, there's something really primal about security and safety and having enough food in your belly and all of those things. So at that stage, when your family is looking at you and they're like, yeah, man, this is not a good move. Like, you're clearly making a bad decision here. How do you stick with it? How do you keep going? How do you keep putting content out? How do you follow this path that we're not even really sure of? We think we know where we're going, but like, what's that look like?
So everything has risk. It's risky to start a business, and it's risky to stay at the job that you hate, because in 40 years, you're going to look back and say, oh my God, what if I did something else? And that question was one of the biggest driving factors for me, because when I was starting, later businesses and even into Minority Mindset, the question I would always ask is, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in 20 years or in 30 years or 40 years when I look back? What am I going to say? What if I tried? What if I took a risk? Or am I going to say, well, I tried and I know it wasn't for me. And so I knew that, you're only the age that you are once, whether it's 25 or 45, only hit it one time. And so I knew that, okay, I'm younger. This is my shot. I'm going to go all in. What do I got to lose? And so when we talk about content more specifically, I started Minority Mindset as a hobby. It wasn't for any particular purpose of trying to make money. So when I started making videos, this was me just putting out content as a way to educate people about the things that I wish I knew when I was getting started regarding entrepreneurship and financial education. I didn't even know that I could make money. Like, one of my friends, I was telling him about YouTube, and he was like, how much money are you making? I was like, I'm not making any money. Do you not have your ads and stuff on? I was like, what are you talking about? So I show him my YouTube channel. He's like, you can turn monetization on. I was like, what? I didn't know that. So now, for me, it was like, I didn't even know that was possible. And so I started it now with the goal of making money. And it was hard in the beginning, as I now realize that this is something that I wanted to do, because nobody was watching my content. Everybody starts with 0 subscribers, 0 viewers, 0 followers. We were the same way. And, I didn't like the idea of having a video with 27 views on it. So what I used to do was I used to publish a video and I used to hit the refresh button 100 times.
I did that too. Oh yeah. And I would like send it to all my friends and family. I would like, just watch it a few times. It's like, just give it the background. Just let it go. Yeah.
I just needed those 3 digits. That was at least 100 views. So I felt like somebody was seeing it.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time because YouTube, we're focusing just on YouTube. YouTube doesn't know if this person, this content creator is real. Should we
Yeah.
promote this person?
Yeah. Yeah.
And our channel didn't start to get any traction until maybe over a year and a half after we really started going into it.
Yeah.
But a video that I had published started going viral. And this video started going viral a year and some change after it went live. So this
Yeah.
video went live,
Yeah.
didn't get any traction, just sat there with it's 127 views, 100 of
Yes.
them that are
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
And it just sat there for a year and a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, 14 months later, this video starts to go viral.
Yeah.
This video starts to get more and more views and it starts to bring more subscribers. And all of a sudden, we went from a channel with 20, 30,000 subscribers to over 100,000 subscribers in 60 days.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy cow, all that work that I had put in,
Yeah.
nobody saw that. Like the years that I was like grinding out videos with no views. Now all of a sudden we're a channel with 100,000 subscribers and people say we made it, but it's like, dude, you don't realize how much work I was putting in every single week. I never missed a week. We were
Yeah.
putting out 2 to 3 videos a week every single week. I never missed one of those days. And that was the part that I think really helped us grow. It wasn't that just this one video was good. It was that I kept putting out videos and YouTube saw that I was consistent, that I kept putting things out. And that's when, we started to see that kind of that uphill moment.
Yeah. 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 It's funny. There's like, when it comes to marketing, whether we're talking, YouTube's probably the perfect case study of this, where you almost like you have to prove. I like to think of sort of YouTube as almost like an audience unto itself, or you have to prove to them that you're taking it seriously, because with all of the competition there and all the videos that are being made and all the creators on the platform, they're just like, yeah. Well, like, okay, give it some time. You're new here. We'll like prove that you want to be here, put in your reps. And then once that happens, then they can open up the gates. And the other thing is it's very much like this war of attrition, where what ends up happening, and I mean, we've all heard this story like a million times, where someone's like an inch away from the finish line and they give up then, and you never knew if that was going to be the breaking point. But it's very much the case that by sort of putting in those reps, is like you're stacking these content assets and like you're just building them up and building them up. And the fact that a video took off for you, say 14 months after, I see that all the time. It's nuts. Like I'll launch a video. It'll say one just bombs, like just the worst video ever. And it'll flatline. And every ounce of your body's like, I should delete this before anyone sees it. This is so bad. Yeah. And you leave it because you forget and you get busy. And sure enough, 90 days, 6 months, a year later, the thing just takes off and it starts bringing in all of the revenue and subscribers. So I don't know. I think you do your best. You do what you can. And then for me, though, I want to hear more about like I guess the vision that you had for it that kept you coming back to it. Because again, for most people, when I sit down and I was like, and they say, hey, I want to start YouTube, or I want to do this kind of marketing, or I want to start this business. And we get all excited and we plat it all out. And I say, cool, we're looking at like a year or two before this is viable. Are you cool with that? And the vast majority are like, I'm totally not cool with that. Like I'm going back to do whatever it is. And I'm trying to remember my mindset at the time of like how I got through it. And, it was probably a bit of hope and dreams, but also a bit of just pure desperation, and that I had to do it. I was like, I got to make this work. But like, what sort of kept you driving for it?
Well, everything that I talk about on the channel, I am super, super passionate about. Everything that I say comes from my heart. And you'll see it the way I talk. You might not like me. You might not like the things that I say. You might not like how I say it. And that's fine. You don't have to watch me. But everything that I say, I can promise you that I come from a genuine, like this is what I truly believe, because I never grew up with this type of education. I never grew up learning about money. I never grew up learning about entrepreneurship. And so when I started learning about these things, I got angry.
Yeah.
Because my parents came to this country with next to nothing. My dad came to this country with less than $100. He didn't know the language. He didn't know the culture. He didn't know the people. And he had to bust his butt. Yeah. And so when you come from that type of background, right, that's why they wanted me to become a doctor, because that's what you assume, that if you want to become successful, you have to follow the system, check all the boxes, do good in school, and get a high paying job.
Yeah.
And then I started learning about money and entrepreneurship. And I started to get angry. Like, what the heck? I have been through more than a decade of school, years of school. I'm spending all this money in school. And I never once learned a thing about investing. I never once learned a thing about building wealth. I never once
Yeah.
learned a thing about entrepreneurship. I never once learned a thing about how I could take care of myself financially. And now I'm getting angry.
Yeah.
Why was I never taught this? So I go on this quest secretly of trying to learn financial education. I started reading books. I was 19 when I bought my first rental property. I told my dad that I wanted to invest in real estate. He told me I was stupid and I need to go back to studying.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I had no guidance. I didn't know what real estate investing was. I didn't know any real estate investors. I just went out there and did it. Now, I was fortunate. This was at the bottom of the 2008 real estate crash. So I was able to buy properties way cheaper than what they are now.
Yeah.
But I started learning, and now all of a sudden, I am exposing myself to this whole new world that I did not know existed. I'm starting learning about passive income and investments and assets, which I did not know. I just assumed that if you had a big salary, all of a sudden everything would be okay. I didn't know that entrepreneurs, business owners get tax breaks. What the heck is a tax break? You know, and when I started learning about these things, the financial side, I started to get really angry, man. And that's where like my passion was like, there's a lot of people that are like me that don't know this stuff. And the whole fact that if I became a doctor, one, I'd be paying the highest taxes. And second, the business model didn't make sense to me morally, because as a doctor, if I became a doctor, you know, I wanted to become financially successful. Well, the way you make more money is you treat more patients. More patients to treat, well, that could potentially mean that the quality of each patient that I treat goes down, because if I'm trying to optimize how much revenue I can bring in, I want to see as many patients as possible. And to me, that didn't sit right morally, because if I'm a doctor, I want to serve. I want to help. And I want to help provide the best care possible, which financially might not be the best thing to do.
Yeah, things don't align. Yeah.
And so that was like, things are not adding up. So just that frustration, I mean, it still gets me heated up because I felt like I was lied to. I felt like the entire system lied to me. I'm spending all this money to learn what? People are going into student loans to learn what?
Yeah.
Because they think that this is what it takes to become successful. There's a lot more to it than that. Yeah. And so it's just like, just learning these things really got me angry.
Yeah.
Like for millennials, the number one liability that a millennial has right now are student loans.
Yeah, student loan debt.
But the biggest asset for the United States government are also student loans. Right. So you have the government talking about, oh, student loans are a big issue. Yeah, we need to figure out the student loan crisis. But at the exact same time, if you go search it, you'll see that the number one asset that the United States government has is student loans, which means that the United States government keeps talking about how they want to fix the student loan crisis. Yet the student loan crisis is helping to fund all of their operations.
Yeah, we got a bit of a conflict. Yeah.
And just learning these things really got me irritated.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because if I look back to sort of when things really went for me, it was, I'm unashamed to say, it was very much a sense of anger. From what ended up happening was that like content creation started because when I went through school, I've told this story a couple times, but like I had a instructor, a professor who taught service marketing. And so first day of class, we're all sitting there and he's like, yeah, what do you want to learn? Like, what's the big thing you want to take away? And this is forever ago, but like, regardless, I put digital marketing because I was like, that's where the future is going. And he's going through the things and he reads it and he's like, yeah, me too. I was like, oh no, this is not going to end well. I'm in the wrong place. And I got really angry because I was like, well, hang on a second. Well, if you're not going to teach this, what are we learning? Anyway, sure enough, we learned about all kinds of like supply chain management and just random useless garbage. Some of it was good. I don't regret it, but it was not like I had to study after school and during school, and I had to bring my own books, and I had to start getting frustrated at why don't people know this? Why aren't they teaching this? How is this a thing? Why? And it's like, part of the reason, say the rich get richer, obviously there's financial areas that you're far more qualified to talk about than I am on that one. But from a business perspective, it's because this access to information and this access to the strategies that most people just don't know. And it blows my mind that this is not common knowledge or common practice. So,
and you know what's crazy? It's like that is the single biggest thing that is changing now, I hope, but it seems like it is because of the pandemic, because now you had people that were paying $60,000 a year to go to college that were now sitting at home watching their college classes from Zoom. Yeah. And then they changed the tab and go into YouTube
Yeah.
And to learn from now real business owners who
Yes.
have built multi-million-dollar businesses talking about what they've done. And they're like, I'm
Yeah.
paying 60 grand to learn from this professor who's teaching me out of a textbook, who's never built a business before. And I'm paying all this money to do that. And I can just go to YouTube and learn from somebody who's doing it, and I can watch them do it.
Yeah.
Hold on. And
Yeah.
the education is changing. You're
Yeah.
decentralizing education through things like YouTube. And I love that. And you're absolutely right, man. With things like digital marketing, like it doesn't matter what you're selling, doesn't matter what your product is. If you do not know how to market your product on the internet nowadays, it is going to be impossible for you to succeed.
Yeah, so we'll go there in a second, because I'm curious to hear about some of the strategies and ideas and all the things that go in, because obviously your focus is clearly on finance, which is amazing. And I'm just so happy to see that. I mean, it's just so valuable, right? Like, as again, someone that sort of grew up thinking I needed to go get a job and do all these things, the whole world was new to me. And so all of that had to be learned. So good for you again. But I'm curious about all the strategies, because you don't build a business like this, you don't make the impact that you want. And whether we're talking about building a channel or creating content or building a business, it's funny that the marketing is pretty much always the same. It's about getting in front of the right people, spreading the right message, lining things up. So I guess the big thing is let's stick on the topic of content marketing. When you're making these videos, when you're thinking of the titles, when you're creating the content for it, where are you doing the research for it? How are you aligning it with the target market? How are you figuring out what should we create it on? What do our people want to see? Sure. Answer those questions.
So we'll focus directly on the business side now. How do we create the right content, right? Because that's what you're asking. How do we create the right content to grow our audience? And the answer you're going to hear is probably not going to make a lot of people happy, because it's different than what the majority of people talk about. Because when the majority of people talk about building a YouTube channel, that's exactly what they say. Study the SEO. Yeah. Study these trends and a whole bunch of other crap. And that's exactly what it is. It's crap. Yeah. We focus on one thing when it comes to creating videos: the content. Mm-hmm. And when I say the content, all we focus on is the value that I can provide, because I know what I know. And for me to sit here and talk about things that I don't know, you're going to pick it up very fast, and you're going to be like, dude, Jaspreet, you have no idea what the heck you're talking about. I'm leaving. Right. Yeah. So I know what I know, and I talk about that, and I talk about it with passion. And I just, it's very simple. All I do is I try to provide the most value possible. I'm not sitting here. We don't search SEO trends. We're not trying to do all that. All we're trying to do is provide the best value possible, because if we focus on YouTube, you cannot out YouTube YouTube. Yeah. If you're trying to hack the algorithm with certain tags and certain titles, guess what? You cannot turn a piece of crap content into good content by trying to hack the algorithm. Yeah. You cannot out YouTube YouTube. The way you win on YouTube, you focus on the content first, because all YouTube wants to see is, are people watching your content, and do people like your content? And they have a whole bunch of algorithms to figure that out. Even if you tell people to hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment, they'll still figure out that people don't like your content. Yeah. So if people like your content, YouTube will be able to figure it out. Yeah. Then if they like it, then that's when YouTube will start to share it. That is where having, the thumbnail and the right titles and all that can help. But all they're trying to hack the algorithm crap is just crap. What you need to do, again, this is just from my opinion.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with you in just a second, but carry on.
Everything that I do is just, we focus on the value. Yeah. What value can I provide our audience? And I talk about the things that are important to me, and I talk about it from my perspective and my opinion, and that's what we do. Yeah. We focus on that.
Cool. Well, so I agree with all of that. So the way that I represent it is, we've got this diagram on a page somewhere called the marketing hierarchy, which is almost like a Maslow's pyramid type thing. And essentially what ends up happening is as we go up at the top level, we have sort of psychology based principles. So why do people like what they like? Why do they do what they do? Why do they think like they think? Where's the value that I can provide? And then below you have strategy and tactics, and then you've got tools. And at the bottom, you have hacks and tricks and tools and beating the algorithm and all of those types of things. It's cool to hear you say SEO, because it's funny. Like when YouTube, back when I first started making videos, there was a real hard push on SEO, and it had more weight and it had more merit. And then it slowly started to slip away, and I hung on to it with like a death grip for years. I was like, it's still got to work, right? And no, you're absolutely right. It's about value. It's about watch time. It's about getting someone to come back and share your stuff and engage with you.
YouTube is not Google.
YouTube is not Google. Despite the fact that they are a search engine. I think that's the problem, right? Is like, because they're owned by Google, because they're the world's second largest search engine, they operate differently. And the relationship that you build with someone, you just can't do through Google, but you can do through video.
the difference between YouTube and Google, YouTube does have the search factor that Google does, but what Google does not have is the viral aspect. And
Right.
so YouTube allows you, if you put out good content, provide that value, to go viral, like you see from Instagram. So YouTube is a pseudo social,
Yeah.
social media plus blog, I guess you could
Yeah.
call it, whatever Google is, SEO, right? So it's the
Yep.
hybrid, but you cannot play the same games on YouTube that you do on Google. You cannot
Right.
do the same
Yes.
thing on Instagram that you do YouTube.
Yeah.
It's its own beast. And you
Yeah.
have to understand that. And it's really about value. You cannot do what you do on the other platforms on YouTube, which makes it so powerful. That's why people see good content instead of just a whole bunch of crappy content.
Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely true. I think what's really interesting is that if we look at sort of the history of social media in general, the history of media publications is in where people and how they consume content. Well, they go to sort of, I don't want to say one place at a time, but we tend to have these dominant media. So we have obviously newspapers, then we have radio, then we have TV, and then we switched very much to social in general. And now we're kind of on streaming services, of which streaming services are starting to YouTube's messing around with that as well. But what's really interesting, and this is just my gut guess where the future is going, is that if you look at the streaming services and you look at YouTube, I still see it having a much more dominant impact on society, culture, reach, all of that over the next 5, possibly 10 years, though that's pretty far out, with where we're going. I think like we're still in these super infant stages of the platform. So again, like if someone, I guess advice for anyone watching, they're sitting there, they're thinking, do I start my business? Do I scale my business? Do I do this type of thing? Do I quit my job? So on and so forth. Where do they go? Because I love suggesting YouTube, but I'm also kind of a realist with being, hey, if you're cool to put in a year or two before this pays off, then yeah, this is the platform for you.
Yeah, it's a very astute observation. I am a big proponent of YouTube because, like you said, people are ditching cable. They don't want to watch cable anymore. Are you crazy? And so they're moving to streaming services. And Netflix's biggest competitor is not Disney Plus or Hulu. It's YouTube.
Yeah.
Because people love watching content on YouTube. You have a different personal connection on YouTube than you do on Netflix or Disney, because now you can be friends with the creator. You can chat with them, comment on their stuff, and you can really relate to somebody on YouTube, which you can't do that on Netflix. Now Netflix and YouTube are different, but they're fighting over the same thing: watch time, right? Watch time on what? Your computer, on your TV. And that's where people are moving, because you're starting to see, especially in the video space, you're starting to see this little shift where you either have, you have the short content like TikToks and Instagram, but then you have the YouTube, Netflix type content. And this is where, YouTube is starting to be watched more on TV. It's not just the mobile phone anymore. If you go look at your analytics, people are starting to watch it on TV. What does that mean? That people are now not watching cable, and instead of Netflix, they're putting on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's big, but it doesn't have to be. If you were trying to figure out where you want to build this content brand, it doesn't have to be YouTube. I love YouTube.
Yeah.
You can build a brand off of a blog still. It's going to be hard. You're going to have your own challenges. You can do it off of a podcast. But, YouTube I love YouTube because you get so many different aspects at one place, because you get the audio, you get that blog feel, you get that kind of connection of a blog, but you get the virality of an Instagram channel, you get the searchability of a blog, you get the credibility of a TV channel, because if you have 100,000 YouTube subscribers, all of a sudden people start to listen to what you got to say.
It's funny, hey? Yeah. You say the same stuff you do for years, but as soon as you throw a couple numbers, that social proof element is huge. So
absolutely, and people start to listen, and the reality is, it's very powerful. That's why YouTube is really making it harder for some channels to succeed, because they want to see, are you the real thing? You saw the same thing happen with blogs, where Google really started to see the credibility of a blog, and they would test it through so many different ways, right? Backlink, your interlinking and all that stuff. They want to see, are you the real deal? Because if they're going to promote you, they know the type of influence that you can have. It's the same thing with YouTube. YouTube can turn you off overnight.
Yeah.
It can also blow you up overnight.
Yeah, exactly. And which again kind of comes back. That's a perfect segue, because again, one of my big beliefs is to always sort of sounds sort of ruder than intend to, but own your audience of like, make sure that you have email addresses and mailing addresses if you can, SMS if that's your thing. Basically move people off platform because again, yes, YouTube could be your best thing in the world, or it could cripple your entire business if it decides to switch the algorithm. So where is, for Minority Mindset as like a media publication company, what's the current strategy for it? Or do we have email lists? Do we have this kind of follow-up? Is there this funnel, that thing? Like, what does that look like?
Sure. I'll just kind of walk you through the entire, like the progression. So it started off as social media, went on to YouTube. As we started to grow onto YouTube, and I realized that, I wanted to really build a business out of this, the next thing we did was we built out a newsletter. So email list. And we have two different types of newsletters. Every morning we send out a debriefing of the top finance and business news because our audience is very into the financial education side of things. So we break down the top finance and business news. We have a team that does that, and that goes out first thing in the morning. Then in the afternoons, if you're a part of our financial education funnel, then you also get a financial education email. So this might be in how to invest your money in stocks or real estate or money management, whatever it might be. You'll have that. Then we started to invest in our blog. So we are trying to now hit that SEO game for Google, right? And so it's easier now for me to do that because I have a great team of people who are smarter than me at it than that to manage that, because you can't do everything. So then we started to invest in the blog. After that, we started to invest in our academy. So we built out, it's a monthly subscription. We have some amazing stock market coaches, people who have been in the industry for a long time, have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in the market, to now do a weekly group coaching session with our audience. And it's super, super, super affordable. We do that for less than $50 a month, where now people can get access to this coaching. You get your questions answered. You get your own exclusive community. You get a free class with it. I mean, it's packed with value. We're a value first brand. And so then we launched that. And then, now we're getting more into the, I don't know, people like to call it private equity, venture side. I like to call it just the straight investment side, where now we can help other companies grow through our brand presence. What that means is we can use our capital or our brand to now invest in startups or smaller or companies that we believe in, that align with the brand and align with my morals and values. And one, help them grow, or two, help give them exposure. So an example of this is UpCounsel. So it is I'm an attorney. And the thing that I didn't like about the legal field is a very fatty business, meaning that if you're a business owner, you want to get some business advice for your business. If you call a big law firm because you want a good attorney to help you out, it's going to cost you a lot of money per hour. The reason why, I'll say this as an attorney, is because it's very fat. You have your equity partners at the top who are going to take a big chunk of it. Then you're going to have your like advisory partner, the person that you report to directly. They're going to take a big chunk of it. If somebody referred this client to you, they're going to take a big chunk of it. And then the attorney who's actually doing all the work gets a small piece of that. So now you, as the business owner, are paying all this money when you're only really getting this much of what you're paying. And so UpCounsel is a company that's trying to change that, because what they're doing is it's kind of like, think of it almost like freelancing for attorneys, where now you can get these same big attorneys, the good attorneys here, and you can work with them directly because you can post your job. Let's say you have a business, you want a contract reviewed, or you have whatever it is you want to get reviewed, you post it there, and then the attorney will then bid for your job. So you have multiple attorneys bid for the job, and then you can work directly with the attorney. It costs way less than you going to the law firm. And the attorney's happy because they get to keep a bigger chunk of it. So they're making more money, even though they're charging less per hour. And you're happy because you got a good attorney and you're paying less money per hour. So we're trying to invest in these companies. I'm an investor in that company, and we're trying to help grow that. And so that was like kind of I would have never thought that was something that would have come out of Minority Mindset, but that's kind of the new transition where now, because we have exposure, we have that access, right, to the media access, where now we can work with companies, we can invest in them, and we can potentially advise them. We can provide them with help and get paid in equity and kind of help grow these companies. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I love working with startups and I love working with entrepreneurs. So that's the type of things, new opportunities keep opening up. And
Yeah.
these are things that, I would have never expected. I never thought that we would have a blog. I was like, no,
Yeah.
YouTube is the future. Now here we are on our blog, right? So
Smart
it's
move
like,
also. Yeah. The
it
marketer in
just,
me is just like applauding inside. It's such a smart move to diversify your traffic sources. And also, it's funny, as video heavy as I am, clearly, um, text still has a huge place. Audio still has a place. Like all of these other mediums have a place, and they're not going anywhere. People are going to continue to read. So, and it's a different demographic and it's a different way that we consume content. So super smart move. The cool thing for me that you said there is like that word opportunities, because I don't know what it is that we can have all the plans and all the goals and we can make the smart strategic moves and we can move in the direction that we want. But these things that show up out of nowhere from putting in the blood, sweat, and tears, once you've basically proven yourself to the world that, look, I'm serious, guys. I'm not messing around. I'm here for it. Like, I'm not going away. The stuff that comes out is crazy. And I
yeah.
think it's because, and this is a message that I'd like to deliver, and I'm sure you'd agree as well, is like, there's so much room for people still that are serious about making an impact, about making the world better. If you're actually serious about that, if that's your intentions, if you want to help and you're willing to sweat a little and to bleed a little for what you believe, it's yours. Like, it's yours. Like, it's going to take some time, but like not enough people are willing to do that. And so therefore it's yours.
Yeah. An entrepreneur's job is to solve a problem. And that's why I love entrepreneurship, because you got to be a little bit crazy to be an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
to find the problem and say, I am going to solve it,
Yeah.
whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to eat properly. I'm going to not see my family. I'm not going to not see my friends. I'm going to not go on that vacation because I want to solve this problem. So you got to be crazy to be an entrepreneur, which is why, it's not for the majority of people. Entrepreneurship gets this glorification where, oh my God, you can make $1 million as an entrepreneur and you can do this and that. Yeah, you can. But to get there, it's not easy.
It's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to get punched, if you're not willing to go through it, then don't do entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, entrepreneurs are in the business of solving problems. And that's another reason why I love entrepreneurship, because everybody has a different pain. For me, financial education was big. For somebody else, it's solving this issue with cancer, right? Because their mom had to deal with something and they want to solve that problem. For somebody else, it might be, how do we solve world hunger through technology? There's so many different things that we can do through entrepreneurship, and everybody has a different passion. Everybody has a different purpose, and it allows you to now build something, solve that problem. And the money is a byproduct of the value that you provide. And it's not easy getting there, which is why the majority of people won't do it. A lot of startups will fail.
Yeah.
Most of them will, but if you're crazy enough, you will continue to keep going and try. Like, I have gone through a lot of business ventures, some of them that became very successful, some of them that just failed. But I learned something from every single one. My first real kind of venture was a party promotion business that I talked about when I was in college. It was doing very well, but I wasn't into partying and I wasn't into drinking. So then when I was getting towards the end of my college career, I was like, dang, do I want to expand this? Because we grew from just hosting parties to hosting concerts and shows and doing a whole bunch of different things. And we were doing pretty well. And now I'm like, do I want to expand this and make this my career or do something else? And it was hard because it was making good money.
Yeah.
But my passion, my heart wasn't in it. So I shut it down. And it's that tough decision that sometimes you got to make where you're like, yes, I was becoming successful, or maybe I was not becoming successful, but you will learn something every single time. And then if you have the real entrepreneurial bug, you will understand that, okay, that was just a step for me to get to the next step, to the next step. And, you're going to have to go through these failures. And people, all they're going to see is that success, but they're not going to see all the crap that you had to go through, all the failures that you have to go through, all the ridicule that you had to go through, all the criticism that you had to go through. Because when people see you fail, they're going to make fun of you. When people see you making money, even though you might be richer than ever, you're going to be living broker than ever because you're investing everything back in your business. They're going to make fun of you. Like, what the heck is wrong with you? Why aren't you going on vacation? Why are you driving such a beat up car?
Yeah.
But you understand that, you're on a bigger mission and people are not going to see it. That's what makes entrepreneurship so dang hard.
Yeah. Oh, Jaspreet, I wish I didn't. I love everything. I wish I didn't agree, but it's also true, right? Like, I wish there was an easier way. I'm glad you said all that because I don't think enough people talk about it. There's a pet peeve of mine, and Now, of course, balance, health, all of that. Yeah, for sure. I agree with all of that. You can't neglect everything forever. However, to truly do something worthwhile, to truly build something great, you're going to have to do the things that other people are unwilling to do, which means all of those sacrifices and all of those. Yeah, basically.
When you're building, balance is not what you want.
Yeah, not a chance.
I mean, when I was starting off, I was going to school full time and I was running my business full time. And if I got 4 hours of sleep in a night, man, that was a good night because I was in class all day. And then in the evenings, I'm planning events. In the mornings, I'm waking up early to plan my events. Fridays or Thursday, depending on the day. But Friday, I'm hosting an event. That means I got to be at the club by 8 o'clock. The party goes from 10 to 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. And at 2 a.m., the party ends. And then I'm not done because after the party ends, I got to count the money. I got to make sure the DJ is paid. I got to make sure everyone's paid. I got to make sure there are no fights. So I got to go through all this crap. Now it's 3 or 3:30 in the morning. I got to get some food with the DJs. I get home at 4:30 a.m. And now I go to sleep and it's Saturday, 4:30 a.m. And guess what? I work in the wedding business. And on Saturdays, people get married. Now I wake up at 7 a.m. I got to get to the wedding by 8 a.m. Now I'm setting up early in the morning. I got to work at the wedding all day long. Once the wedding's done at midnight Saturday, now I tear down. Mm-hmm. I get home Sunday early, Saturday late night, Sunday early morning, 1 or 2 in the morning. I finally go to sleep, wake up Sunday morning, start it all back up again. Yeah. It's a grind. It's a grind. Now, today, I have a whole lot more balance. I still work a lot, but I'm getting a lot more sleep. I'm doing, it's just, you got to understand there's a time and a place where you got to hustle. You got to be willing to work. Yeah. And that's the thing that most people don't talk about. Yeah, it's funny because it's demonized, right? Like, well, at first it was glorified, and then it was demonized, and now it's sort of like I think I've always taken a bit of I did it all wrong, so I made so many mistakes. It's not even funny, but I definitely I could have sped up my process by like 5 years. Like I just, but again, I did that 7 days a week, 16 hours a day thing forever until basically friends and family stepped in. They're like, hey man, you should probably not do all this. And at that point they were right. I was like, yeah, I should probably go to bed or eat something healthy or come see some people. However, oh man, results don't lie. I mean, it's worked for me and it's clearly worked for you as well. So it's hard for me to ever say to someone, if there's something that you really, really want, you're going to have to work. Now, of course, you can work smarter, but you're going to need to work hard. And it's going to take time. And if you're not willing to do that, that's totally cool. And success does not go to lazy people. It does not. And you have to be willing to put in the work. I mean, whether it's demonized or glorified, it doesn't matter. You got to be willing to put in that work. And you cannot bypass it. Yeah. And yes, as you become more successful, you can sleep more, you can relax more, you can, I try to be as healthy as possible. I eat healthy. I try to exercise twice a day. I wake up in the mornings. I walk for an hour and a half. I listen to my audiobooks while walking to get my steps. And then I try to hit the gym in the evenings or later part of the day. Like, health is important to me. You get one body, but you got to understand that, if you're just trying to sit there and live a balanced life and you're trying to put aside work because you want to live balance as you're trying to build something big, somebody else is going to come and they're going to beat you. Oh yeah. I think that, and it's been really interesting to see that happening as well. It's like, I love the sort of the democratic process of the internet, of access to amazing minds from all over the world. And it's both inspiring and for me, who has 4 young kids, it's also really, I don't want to say scary, but it's like, oh man, you guys have no idea. Like someone's coming to eat your lunch and they're going to deserve it more than you unless you like smarten up and clean your room and do this and do that and show this work ethic and work harder here. Cause it's before, it was outsourcing. So people hated India and China because the Indians and Chinese were taking their jobs. Yep. Well, nowadays, it's not Indians and Chinese people, man. You got to worry about it's a robot. Right. And unless you're willing to get smart and unless you're willing to get creative, a robot is going to come and take your job. Yeah. And you have to know how to think. And this, goes back to the education system, which is so screwed up. Yeah. Man, it teaches people not how to think, but how to do. And anybody can learn to do. But you need to know how to think. You need to know how to be creative. And that's not what's taught. You need to know how to make mistakes, how to take risks, how to innovate. And even, with jobs, like, the people that work here for Minority Mindset, no one here is just taking this and plugging it here.
Yeah.
Everybody is a very innovative thinker, a very creative thinker. How can we be better on our blog? How can we
Mhm.
be better on our social media? How can we be better on our newsletter? You have to be willing to think, and thinking outside of the box. That type of education, which is not taught, but that type of
Mhm.
education is going to be so crucial for every single job in the future, because
Mhm.
if a job does not require creative thinking, it's going to be taken over by a robot
Yeah.
or a freelancer or somebody overseas.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say robots, because for anyone watching here now, it's like, robots. There's two positions that come to mind immediately for me that have been replaced in my agency over the last 10 years. And one of which was social media management and content scheduling, because there are a number of amazing softwares out there that we upload assets to, and basically we just program it all, and they pick and choose where it goes, when it goes, and they can handle all of that. So there's one. The second thing is there's AI, artificial intelligence powered copywriting. Now, is it as creative as a human? No, not a chance. But it gets us like 80% of the way there, especially for things like SEO based content, things where it doesn't need to be in my voice or anything like that if we're just trying to rank a site. And they are so powerful, it would scare the average person how they do it. And it's organic, unique content, and it's done by a freaking robot. And we're only getting better. So,
Yeah, it's not slowing down. And
yeah,
if anyone's going to say, "Oh, robot's not going to take my job," oh my God, think again. A lot
yeah,
of people in my culture work in the trucking business, and I
that's a
try to
big
tell them,
one. Yes.
yeah, trucking is a good business today. People are getting paid a lot as a truck driver, fine, but you got to understand that robots are coming for your job.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, a robot's never going to know how to maneuver around a pothole. You look, they are finding a way to. They've already been testing.
Oh, it's nuts.
It might not happen next month, but if you're planning on being in that career for 40 years, oh
Yeah.
man, you better get ready.
So what's the takeaway points then, I guess, for someone that's looking to set themselves up for success both now but also into the future? How does someone learn creative thinking and problem solving and all of these things that aren't taught in school?
You got to be willing to make mistakes. One of the core values we have here at Minority Mindset is crazy is good. You have to be
I
willing
like it.
to be crazy. And the reason why I say that is because, it comes from my own personal background. Because every time I try to do anything, everyone would say, "Oh, Jaspreet, you're crazy. You're
Yeah.
stupid," right? And so nowadays, it's like, I want that validation. I want you to tell me I'm crazy, because I
Yeah.
know if you don't understand what I'm doing something right.
Okay.
And so,
Okay.
I need that sort of like, okay, if the majority of people don't get it, we're onto something. And it might
Hmm.
fail fast.
Hmm.
We try to fail fast, but you have to be willing to try new things. You got to be willing to take risks.
Hmm.
You got to be willing to try things. You got to be willing to make mistakes. And, and if you do screw up, learn from it. We
Hmm.
have a saying, ready, fire, aim.
Hmm.
That most people focus on ready, aim, fire, which means they get ready, they aim, they aim,
Yeah. Ready,
they
aim, aim.
aim,
Aim some more.
and then they go nowhere because
Yeah.
they psych themselves out of doing anything. Oh,
Yeah.
what if this goes wrong? What about this? What about this legal issue? What about that? And they go nowhere. Well, hey,
Yeah.
you know what we do? We go, we shoot, we
Hmm.
screw up, we figure out where we screwed up, and then we fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the way that I like to do things. You got to be willing to pivot. When the pandemic hit in 2020, we had no idea what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, we made a big shift where we're like, all right, we had advertisers that were shutting down paying advertisements because
Yeah. Of
they didn't know what was going to happen. So all of a
course.
sudden we saw major shifts, and we're like, we need to change. We
Hmm.
need to change fast. So we started covering what was going on in the economy. We started covering what was going on with the Federal Reserve Bank. We started covering different types of content.
Hmm.
These are things that I was already passionate about, but we started changing. We started changing our cadence of content. It might not seem like a big thing, but we had, a set cadence where now all of a sudden we went from publishing videos 2 times a week to 5 times a week.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
just made a lot of changes quickly because we're like, dude, the world is changing
Yeah.
and we have to do something. And if you got to be willing to pivot when those
Yeah.
type of changes happen.
Yeah. Adaptability, being able to pivot. I heard take action, obviously, and then survivable risks. That's a big one for me. So failing fast again, so you can collect the data on what works and what doesn't, and then being willing to take risks that you can recover from, so you can do it again. So obviously, don't wipe yourself out. Don't mortgage your house and go into crippling debt you're never going to be able to recover from. That'll be your subjects. But like, do all of the things that you need to do so you can keep trying and get another at bat. And the more that you're the more opportunities you have to take these chances, take these risks.
Yeah,
That's how
and
it pays
one
off.
thing I can add to that, it's to be creative in how you spend. One of our core values, I'm gonna go back to that, is do less with more.
Mhm.
And if you focus just on YouTube, and this goes across every business idea, you do not need to spend $5,000 to start making videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Start by not spending money.
Yeah.
Okay. I started making videos with my phone
Yeah.
with a $20 tripod and a $25 light. That was it.
Yeah.
I didn't have a camera. I didn't have a microphone. I didn't have any fancy audio recording software or editing software. It was like the cheapest stuff.
Yeah.
About maybe spent less than $100, and that was it.
Yeah.
Don't waste money. I mean, and it doesn't have to be just a content-based business. I mean, this is anything. Don't spend money until you start to prove it.
Yeah. Don't
blow the money.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said that. So a big thing for me is I've got a reading list on my website. I'll try to remember to link it up below here, which is it's around 100 or so. Oh man, I keep trying to get it down to 100, but I keep finding new cool books. and it's 100 books on marketing and business and so on. And you can pick away at those, and you don't need anything beyond that if you're just getting started and you want to get going. And I don't know. Some of them are probably free or 99 cents on a Kindle or whatnot. So it's like that's where to start. So on that note, and I guess two more things. First, any book recommendations? Like if someone's there and they're like, what do I read? How do I get started? What are your favorite books?
Well, the first financial book that I ever read was a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That really just was the first exposure that I ever had to anything related to money or financial education. Mm-hmm. I think for entrepreneurs, one of the best things that I like to do is just read biographies, listen to people who inspire you, like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Richard Branson.
Richard Branson's are my favorite. Yeah.
Amazing books. Read them. Shoe Dog from Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And one more, what's his name? Tony Hsieh, Delivering Happiness. Zappos. Oh my God. That book is amazing. You learn so much. They're not educational books. Yeah. They're books about their lives, but you're going to learn so much about the way they think, and it will change your perspective on business.
Perfect. I love all of those. I love all of those books too, as well. They're not on the list. I think Richard Branson's might be, because maybe one of them. And I guess final question to Jaspreet is like, where can people go? Where do they subscribe to the channel? Obviously put a link to it below as well, but like where else do people find you?
Well, you can go to YouTube, check us out, Minority Mindset. Check out our website, theminoritymindset.com, and across socials, Minority Mindset.
There it is. Easy enough. Okay. Well, my friend, thank you so much for having the chat today, for sharing all this. It's refreshing to hear such grounded, solid, practical, real world advice. So yeah, I enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate you sharing.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me on. It was an honor and a pleasure. And yeah, thank you for having me, man. This is awesome.
Sounds good. All right, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. For even more information and more value to really help take your business and your marketing to the next level, make sure to check out the video I've got linked up right here on digital marketing. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, the next thing that'll really help you become a better digital marketer is to understand the differences between strategy and tactics and when to use them.